what is the process for this? Is there a process, and is that being followed?
Well, there really isn't a process. The process for these files are defined by the statute. I mean, I would think of the statute as one great big FOIA request, like this is Congress's FOIA request, which the president signed into law. The trouble with this is the statute itself is very unclear about procedure, and indeed it does give time limitations, 30 days from signature, which is today, but there's no enforcement mechanism in the statute. So really, there's not much to done. And the bigger problem that I see is there's nothing to evaluate the completeness of the disclosure. People are going to have to look at this with a fine-tooth comb, because I do not trust this administration to give everything. And in fact, there's indications that they want to just dish out things that would make Democrats look bad and pull back things that make Republicans and the president look bad.
They can redact whatever they want, right, Robert? So are we going to be in a world in which Republicans are redacted and Democrats are hung out to dry? Or could we just see entire pages that are redacted and this goes to court to find out more? Or that's just the final word?
That's the final word. Now, the statute does give certain things, and the intention of redaction would be, let's say, for instance, to protect the names of victims or the identities of the victims, of which there are many young women who are victims here. And so it makes a certain policy sense that they can have some redaction. And I think most people would accept that. The trouble is this administration, and under Pam Bondi certainly, has shown a proclivity anytime they have an excuse to do things that avoid making themselves look embarrassing, regardless of whether that's legal or not.
Also, I mean, given the stress and hyperpartisanship of the DOJ right now, if you're one of these attorneys who's been told redact this and you see something that you know could be compromising to the White House or the president, I can't help but think you are going to be tempted to over-redact it in an effort not to antagonize the bosses and keep your job. Where does the discretion there lie? Is there any backstop for that? And there are also reports that there are two versions of some documents and different people are redacting the different documents, so there could potentially be different redactions on the same document twice because there isn't really a standard. It's kind of a judgment call.
Oh, absolutely. And as I think I heard you mention before, a lot of the really fine attorneys in the U.S. Attorney's Office have left or have been shuttered aside to other jobs, kind of the equivalent of the U.S. Attorney or the Department of Justice Siberia. So you've got people there who are either personally conflicted and don't know what to do, and you have people there who are just basically Trump partisans who are going to not give a fair presentation of this. What it has done and what Pam Bondi has done with her Department of Justice is just eroded confidence in the objectivity of that office. And there's no reason to believe that the production of these documents will be objective and fair.
Mm-hmm. There's the legal side, which is why we're talking to you, Robert. There's also the editorial side. And I can tell you that there are scores of journalists and lawyers teamed up in Washington and in New York, waiting for these files to drop today to start reading through them en masse. Considering the role that you play as a constitutional and criminal lawyer, and also your interest in politics, I'm just wondering how you would pursue this if this was dumped in your lap, Robert, what names you'd be looking for first, or where you'd know to jump in the documents to find the news.
Well, first of all, I want to get them electronically so I can do little searches, maybe harness a little AI in favor of democracy.
Yeah.
So first of all, I'd be doing that and just typing in certain names. That would be the first thing I do. And then you want to look at
Control F Melania. You tell us.
Control F Melania. Yeah. Well, that's kind of yours and my standard. I think the younger generation is more into more sophisticated AI than we are, but still, Control F works just fine. And so you're going to find that. You're going to find Control F, Donald Trump, or DJ Tay, right? DGT for Donald Trump, right? So you're going to, first of all, do that kind of thing. But then it's going to be a painstaking process. And again, kind of to the points that were made before, the legion of journalists who are ready to receive this, frankly, are very competent in their job. We don't have confidence not only in the fairness and objectivity, but quite frankly, if you look at the performance of this Department of Justice and the people they put in, you have some questions about their competency and their ability to deal with these large documents, both in the Department of Justice itself and the FBI that's supposed to be doing the investigation. So I'm putting my faith in journalism, at least on this one, in terms of getting the correct information out.
You've also got a Republican from Kentucky on the Oversight Committee saying pretty outright that if he doesn't see names of men who could be, charged with rape or other crimes, he's not going to believe, or he's going to know that they didn't release everything that they could release. Is he right? Are there things, we've been talking about what is getting redacted. Are there things that if they are not there, I mean, look, DOJ has said we're not getting all the documents at once, but what should we be looking for in absentia in these documents that could tell us what?
Well, a lot of these are going to center on what are called FBI 302s, which are the standard FBI report form. It's basically the equivalent of a police report that FBI agents do, their standard police report. So they're going to be looking in gaps in sequential Bates numbering. They're going to be looking for forms that refer to other forms that just aren't there. And it's a very interesting in terms of the politics and the split in the Republican Party, because, the Republican Party has always cast itself as the party of law and order, and in favor of that. And if they don't see correct law and order and the respect for victims, they're going to have a real issue here, and there's going to be pushback. And also, I think there's got to be something else to keep in mind, and the people disclosing should know this. People have copies of these things. I frankly am surprised that nothing has been leaked before this. Somebody or several people have these documents in some hard drive someplace, and if they're not correctly disclosed and released to the public, they're going to get out eventually. I mean, don't forget, all Nixon's tapes eventually got out. And I think that's what will happen here. And that, quite frankly, is the bind. And I think also you can read these things. And, I have a lot of experience reading FBI 302s and other large discovery packets. You develop an ability to see what's between the sheets, what's between the lines, and what's missing. And I will tell you, as a criminal defense attorney, that's what you hone in on right away.
Robert, we have 1 minute left. I just have to ask you about what's going on over at the Kennedy Center. You're changing the sign there today. And from what we understand, only Congress can change the name of the Kennedy Center. Is that legal?
It is absolutely not legal. And frankly, it's akin to renaming the Department of Defense, which shows that America is about defending democracy, to the Department of War. And simply, it's not. I also think it's in very, very, very bad taste. It is called the John F. Kennedy Memorial Arts Center because he was an assassinated president of the United States, an event that many of us remember in our lives as a key event. And now Donald Trump wants to hone in, having not had that sacrifice.